Okay, what we're doing here is this is a molding video of how to make a clay box. I have a jaw set that I made for my Cujo project. And what I did was I ended up doing the clay and sculpting a clay box. And I made a mold in latex for the jaw set, which is right here. This is a foam-backed St. Bernard lower jaw set, and it is the teeth and everything have been kind of molded in there to do this. So then I made a mold of it in the latex right here, and then did the first resin casting, which is this one that came out. This is a flat resin casting that came out of that mold. And this is the actual first jaw set, which looks a lot like the original, except for there was a broken tooth. That is an intentional thing there. So it looks very similar to the original. What I'm going to do here, though, is I have to do the lower jaw, which is a slim, small, right here. And this is the lower jaw set of the dog. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some clay right here. And because this is more slender and narrower than the other one, I'm not going to be using as much clay. I'm going to cut about 4 pieces off of here, about an inch thick all the way around. Reason being is because when you do these in latex and or silicone to make molds, you really need to have a strong, durable sidewalls, so it'll hold whatever it is that you're pouring in there. Now the objective is not only to make these, but what we do is we have like a platform here. First thing we do is place the teeth on the platform. Make sure they're positioned. I want to try to get them as good as we can and print it on there, but I really don't want anything underneath it. And I may need to take a little clay and put it up under here. But the first thing is to try to position the teeth on the flat part of the clay. Secondly, you want to take a piece of clay, like so, after you get that. Just kind of push the clay into itself. And what you're doing is you're pushing the clay up against the wall there. Hold it with your back of your hand and just kind of push the clay in there. Now I can go back and cut this because the teeth are going to be so high on here that I can probably have a good enough sidewall here. Then I'm going to want to take another one, as flat as you can get, as possible. And then you want to cut the piece where you don't need it. Now I'm just going to cut out a little bit outside of this and just go straight down from that. Try to get some marks off at the same spot. Where's my clay cutter? Let's take that and cut that. Just try to go straight across right here. Right there. Let's lay that off to the side. So this way you have about the same. And what you want to do is come out, overlap the other side. Push it up against there on that. Then with your hands, fold the clay on the back side and the top, and just make sure that you fold it over and run it down. Kind of mush it in together. Pinch it and squeeze it together and then smooth it out. You don't want to pour too much clay off of the sides, because if you do, you're likely to weaken the corner. And if you weaken the corners, then that means there will be latex or silicone will get through. Then what you do is come on the inside, do the same thing as before, just push the clay up against it, like so. All the way along, try to get it in the corners. If you need to pinch off some clay, like a little piece of clay like that, just put it in there and just kind of rub it in the corners. What you want to do is you want to seal up the cracks in the edges of this mold. I'm going to take a little bit of clay and roll it into like a little worm, like so. Put it in there and push it in there and make sure that it's sealed off. It's very easy and very basic. A very basic way of doing things. And then go along this edge here and just make sure that once you've got the clay pushed up there, you rub it out. Make sure that that line, the crack, is covered and it's sealed. And you want to take your next piece push it together. Take some of this clay from the back end and just push it down there and make sure you get a good firm and right here. Push it up here. And make sure this thing still fits in here. Yes, it does. It's got to have fitting all the way around. So I'll put this right here. Turn that around. And put that in there because I need one more piece of clay. I have one more piece of clay over here. The objective that I have here is not to waste so much material insofar as the latex and or silicone goes. So what I'm trying to do is cut off a clay piece that will fit there. That won't fit, so put that in there. Bring my clay down a little bit here. And just cut off a good sized chunk here from the top of the clay. Oops. Well, so that's what happens when you get too heavy. I'll fix that later. Handle comes out. Things happen. Things happen. Such is the art and life of building stuff. Now see, I have size dimensions all the way around, which are good. I really don't need to tuck this in, but I'm going to widen this wall just a wee bit, because this end is a little bit close to where it is, and it's probably not going to be a good fit. Push it down on all sides here. Push this down on all sides here and just make sure this is all the way connected to the I'll push that in there and make sure that's all connected there. Manipulate it, and doesn't actually have to be perfect, like perfect square or anything like that, because some objects that you do mold will be a little bit irregular shaped, like jaw sets, things like that can be irregularly shaped, excuse me. And so all I'm doing here is just forming this, and then I'm going to come along the back side of this wall here. I still got to push this, and where this is joining, I'm just going to smooth that out. Push that in, make sure that's in there. That's an overlapping of clay right there, where the flap, I just take it and push it over it. And then I can push this down right here and push this into it. I'd like to get this thing closer this way you can see inside. Yeah, here we go. And just push these up like this and just kind of pinch it together. That's where I kind of take it and just fold it over and smooth it out. Now this may or may not be too narrow. I'm not exactly sure at the moment. But if I need to widen it, I can. Just push the clay out or put down some more clay and widen it out. I think this is going to be good though. I'm pretty confident there will be. Thing is to make sure all the corners and all the gaps are sealed. And then after you do this, it's best to try and let this dry a little bit, to harden and set up. This is water-based clay here that we're using. So we want to let this harden and set up a little bit. I'll put that strip right there. And just run your finger up in the corner there. your finger down the length of the inside, make sure that it's all sealed up. Take a little bit more clay and find all the cracks and gaps and everything like that. Make sure they're sealed really well. You don't want any cracks or gaps showing anywhere in the mold. You want it to be nice and solid clay, almost like a solid piece of hollowed out clay. Okay. Alright, so double check this, and so here we have a rough, check this down, so you have a rough box mold right here. Well, it's just a rough estimate of what the box mold would look like on the inside. With all the cracks and everything sealed up. Sorry about that, my gimbal's not playing nice. Then we'll take the jaw set, put it back down in here, make sure it fits. It's got clearance on all sides. I'm cutting it a little close into the fact that I am kind of making it to where it is a little bit closer than I would want it. But the latex and or silicone that goes in here will be filling up the front part. So I will not have a weak mold in the fact that this front part here and the sides have about, and the back has about almost all the way the same amount of clearance all the way around. I'll turn this around. There's a weak-sided wall, so I'm going to turn this backwards and do it this way. Oops. I don't know why my gimbal is doing that. Sorry about that. It's tracking, but it's not tracking the right object. Wow. This is part of the frustrations I have with having a gimbal and stuff. But I put this in here. And to make sure that this is, let me do this. Let me move this over here and set this up where you can see directly down in here. This might be better. Okay, that's going to be an odd angle. Whoa. That's going to be a really odd angle. Oh, my goodness. Okay, here we go. There we go. Alright, now I'm just going to position this right here where I want it. There you can see the whole thing. Now we just position the jaw set in here to make sure that we've got enough clearance all the way around. Push it down in the clay, up, so it's got it wants to set funny. Now I think I have to have a little bit of a build up here on the front because it's going to be, and I don't want a huge amount of latex and or silicone up under this. So I'm probably going to have to build up just a little bit underneath. Let me see if I can do that. Put a little bit of clay on the bottom here. Like so. Since this has foam on the bottom, it's okay to do this with. It's not going to, clay's not going to stick to it or anything like that. I'm just trying to fill in the gaps right here so it'll sit better on the clay that it's already on. See, I'm just pushing that in there, rubbing it on, just adhering the clay to the mold, the teeth. That way when I put it down in here, it will sit better and fit better, actually. I'm going to position just wrong, just set it over a little bit more. And just push it down in there like that. Okay. So then what we do, I'll pull this wall out just a wee bit, like so. You can mold this however you want and shape it out however you want. If I need a little bit more room, I can make more room. But the key is to make sure that your walls don't have any cracks in them anywhere. So I'll fold that out just a little bit because I do need a little bit of room in the front for this thing to be molded, because most of it, when I fill it up to the point where it needs to be filled, most of it will be in the places it needs to go. I'm just going to shape this on the outside here. And this is just a rough way of doing it. This is not me being neat and specific and all that. I'm just making a generic rough mold, rough clay form. I'll just come out the outside. Make sure it's all nice and smooth on the outside. There's no cracks or wrinkles or anything like that in it. Because what I'm going to do from this point is I will let this sit and dry, and then from the time that I let it sit and dry, it will the pouring of the latex or the silicone will go in here. I'm thinking it may be latex. And I have to do that in layers of sorts. If you do it as solid latex like this, if you do a solid form like this, it will be okay, but you will have a middle that will be mushy and it will not dry out as well. And silicone can dry, but latex is good because it air dries as well. So that's one of the good things about the latex. Now, there is something that I need to do here on this. There's a crack right back here on this back of the jaw. And that's just part of the way it was done. The actual jaw set, you know, the teeth, the bone has a crack in it. So what I do is take a little bit of clay and fill that crack up and make sure that it doesn't show in the mold. I mean, nobody's really going to see this far inside the dog's mouth, but if they happen to take a look and notice it, yes, they will. I will see it. Let's take a little bit of clay like that. And of course, there's one on the front, but that's going to be covered by the fur and the hair on the lip. So, and then I do need to take a little tool and pick off some clay here. I've got a tool pick right here. Hang on just a second. Oddly enough, I've got a dental pick. And then wherever you get clay on here, you happen to get clay anywhere that you don't want it on the mold, you just take a dental pick and just gently scrape off what clay you don't want, like so. Try to make that smooth and even, but okay. Then this will dry, and once the clay dries and then the teeth itself dry on the bottom, I will go in and pour latex and do a corner pour and just go all the way around in the high spots on the corners, making sure to get it down smoothly with little to no air bubbles as possible, and then dribble it over the top and just make a complete mold, very similar to this one. The problem that I had with this one is when I did the teeth and I had them in here like this, I kept having to pop the top and squeeze it to release any of the clay in here that the latex didn't cure. And it was enough that the bottom portion actually did come out without any distortions or anything like that, because it's thick enough that it would do that. So it's just this portion here had to be this portion here was sitting down in the mold like so, and when I had to release it, it was just a thing there. So what I will do now is I will actually do another pour into this mold to show you guys how that works. Let me get this finished real quick here. That way I can set this off to the side and let it dry somewhere without messing it up. My table is leaning. I'll set this over here on a box where it can dry. And not have to worry about it leaking or anything like that. And it's just going to dry and do what it needs to do. Then we'll take this mold here. Oops, sorry about that, I've got a wobbly table. And what we're going to do is take the I'm going to get some resin, and I'll be right back. There's some resin in a cup and a stick. Now for this project, what we need is we need our resins. This is Smooth Cast 65D. And we've got A and we've got B. We've got two sides of this 65D right here. We need a cup. Or a really big one. I think I'm going to go get some bigger ones real quick. A larger cup. You need a cup like this. Excuse me. Now, the thing about this resin is measured 1 to 1. So what you want to do, shake each side really well. Okay, you have A and then B. Shake it really well. Okay, I'll get a stir stick here. Now here's what we do with the cup. Alright, what we want to do is measure this out exactly. Now you can do this by weight or you can do it by volume. And the first thing is notice that I'm using a plastic cup. Plastic will work, but the one thing you have to know about resin and foam is you want the lightest suspension first. Okay? Because if you don't use the lightest suspension first, then it will cauterize and eat through the plastic, and it will cause a problem because it will collapse. So what you need to do is have the lighter one first, because it suspends the resin in the plastic. Oops, sorry about that wobble. Just stir it up real good. Okay. I'm going to do a high pour in the middle of the mold, all the way around. Let it fill up. Do a high pour. Oops, there's too much. Sometimes it'll come off too much. It'll be alright. I do have wobble, so I'm going to put this stick under here just to pop this out. And I have a little leftover resin. Usually I would have an eye project or something like that I could use this in. If I have leftover resin. And what that will do is I'll leave this to show you so you can see in real time what it does. And it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do that. And it will set up.